Good evening. My name is Css Lee. This is Css Talk Show you are listening to, and today's date is September 14th, 2019, Saturday. Saturday is the day where everyone have fun. Okay, welcome to Css Talk Show. And what is today's topic? We don't know. I don't know. And you don't know. And nobody's here yet. Okay. And if nobody is here, then we are just going to talk about random. Okay, there's one guy watching. Say hi, please. Type something and pick a topic. Now, if no one is here, I'm just going to talk about random things. There's keyboards. There are some things I want to say. Oh, good morning, Green Deck. How are you, Green Deck? Hi to Russia from USA. Actually, Green Deck, I was thinking, I should take a break. I want to go have a cigarette, and come back in 5 minutes. And wait for people to come in. But now you are here, and now we have another person. Do I have the luxury of going? So, Green Deck, tell us, how did you learn English? I mean, you are in Russia, right? And how old are you roughly? Good morning, Derek. Oh, okay. So now we have people coming. Huh? Okay, I should be back. Okay, I be back in 4 minutes. Okay, should I? Yeah. Okay. I be back in 4 minutes. But you guys pick a topic for today. Let's talk. Let's talk about something. Pick a topic, and let's talk about that. Okay, great, fantastic. And Green Deck, I wanted to know you, like, what you are 20s, 30s, and or 40s, and how did you learn English? Did you ever travel outside of Russia? I like to know, if you don't mind, that is. Okay, so I will be back in 4 minutes. I'll be back in 4 minutes. CSS, SVG, or math would be fun. Okay, that would be the topic today. Okay, see you guys in 4 minutes. Okay, in 4 minutes, maybe I should play some music. Css Lee music. Now, let's play Bach's Well-Tempered Clavier, the greatest fugue on earth. Okay. Music symbols. Prussian blue, no. Prussian blue is not what we want. Chopin versus Liszt. That's a essay. That's a satire. Now let's go to piano, and let's go to Well-Tempered Clavier number 4. Okay, this is the greatest clavier. And let's play. Let's play number Well-Tempered Clavier Book 1 Fugue number 8. This one. Okay. And let's play by this guy. Koda. Okay, let's play. I am back. What you have heard, the first part is Prelude, Well-Tempered Clavier, Prelude number 8. And this part, the second part, this is the Fugue number 8. And this fugue is one of the greatest piece of music. It it whacks your brain. It gets you beautiful music. Yes, that's those are very well known pieces. Most famous fugue of Bach. So let me read the comments and and then we talk about CSS, SVG, or math. Now we have not talked about CSS before. I suppose because that's CSS technology. It's a technology that the hacker types they sneer. They don't think of it too much, and usually it's by designers. Designers typically female. Women. They yeah, typically they do CSS. Um, and CSS, like HTML, it's very simple. It's very simple to do simple things, but then it gets extremely complex, more complex than HTML. It gets really, really extreme complex when you want to actually do a website. Like you go to website today, for example, YouTube, or even my website. My website is, you see, I am what you might say a minimalist. Okay, so I don't put a huge amount of HTML tags or CSS. Uh, look, you can look at my CSS file. This is the file, and this file is 8,000 kilobytes. 8.5 k, 8.5 k. So 9,000 characters. By today's standard, this is very small CSS file. Now you can see the file. Let me show you. Page down, page down, page down. This is my CSS file. Page down. 7 pages, 500 lines. But if you go to YouTube, for example, and if you look at their CSS or any website, Stack Overflow, Wikipedia, Twitter, Facebook, Medium, any website, they have like, I would say, let's see, so my CSS file is only 9K, okay? Their CSS file is like 30K, at least 30,000 characters, at least minimum, and extremely complex, pretty much unreadable. CSS, I mean, even me having just, 500 lines of CSS, that's already fairly complex. I mean, because, anyway, that's CSS. CSS, if you guys don't know, comments, okay, guys, comment. If you guys don't know, CSS is this technology. Let's go to my CSS website, okay? I have a website, a tutorial of CSS. I name it Visual CSS, meaning that many of the CSS effect you can actually see. For example, you have CSS Animation. Yes, you can do animation with CSS. And you have this transition. You see, if I move my mouse over it, it kind of do an animation. So let's click on that, and if I move my mouse over here, you see that's how it works. I mean, that's the effect, CSS animation. And you can animate quite a lot of things. For example, you see this, kind of neat. It's kind of neat, but in practice this is rarely useful. I mean, so CSS stand for cascading style sheet. And the primary purpose is just for styles, like visual styles, the placement, position, the font, things like that. So I have this CSS tutorial, And if you have never studied CSS, this is a good uh, uh, beginner's starting point. Okay, I show you all the most fundamental, all the basics of CSS. Like I said, CSS is very simple. For example, you begin at, okay, begin not there, begin. So at the bottom there is a panel index of articles. You begin with the CSS basics, this page, so that I tell you what it is about, how to use it, the very basic, the first lesson. You can understand it in few minutes. Then you progress to, other things, like color, like radio gradient, this fantastic radio gradient. Let me go to the Chrome, okay? Just search for Css CSS. I have Firefox off over here, so I mean the JavaScript is off on my Firefox. That's why you don't see actions. But let's go to Css Visual CSS Css. You have fancy things such as this radio gradient. Now, this is actually a JavaScript application that generates the CSS code. You see here, that's a CSS code corresponding to these. You can use random, 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 and 3 colors or 7 colors, 2 colors, and you can change color. Let's change color to red, bright red. Okay, so let's pick bright red, and it's interactive, so you can actually you see, you can actually, it changes right away in real time, and you can see the CSS code, they also change in real time, you see. So let's go to yellow, let's go to red, so it's nice. So this one is about CSS radio gradient, meaning that you can color something in like this, like a radio smooth change of colors. All these are examples. For example, if you want this, here's a code, here's a CSS code. So that's one of them. Then you have linear gradient. Let's say rainbow, random. Linear gradient is common, very common. For example, if you are using Windows Vista or Windows, Windows 10 or something, you typically the Windows top border will look like that. And in fact, let's do a window border. Okay, so let's see. So if you want to emulate the Windows, you know, Windows back in 2010, something like that, Windows Vista, you can say, let's say 2 colors, and the first color will be blue, okay, and then the second color will be red, okay. That's kind of the window Vista. Is that right? Or is it red or black or white? Something I forgot. Anyone remember? Say it, okay. And also you can change the direction, like random direction, you see. Anyway, so that all these are my CSS tutorials, and you can do animation, you can, lots of things. So maybe, yeah, we talk about that a little bit. So who asked that? Who asked that? Let's see. Derek. Good morning, Derek. So Derek, yeah. So Derek, if you have specific questions, like, I don't know if you know CSS before or you never learned it. If you never learned it, then maybe we can start from the beginning. I talk about it, a basic tutorial. If you know about it already, then if you have specific questions, then just post. Like I don't know where to go. So let's see the comments. Meowcat, good morning, Meowcat. I was here since 1 hour before it started. Guess it's not showing viewers properly. Oh, okay. And again, Meowcat, contact me through email. Let's talk on video. Meowcat is a friend. So Greendeck says, I'm in my 20s, did not travel a lot, learned English since early childhood, but most of my skills I think I got from the internet. Oh, the great internet. But I don't think that my English is any close to being good. Okay. So I'm guessing you read English well, but you don't speak it so well. That's typically the case for Chinese or that's typically the case for nerds, for programmers. You can read and learn things. You read and learn another language, but you don't speak well because speaking and listening is entire different skill than reading and writing. So Sam Tang says, "Hi Xa, hi Sam." Sima says, "Howdy, howdy, Simas." Simas, where are you from, Simas? And Meowcat, where are you now? Okay, Grindex says it's if it's important in Russia, everybody in school learn English or German, French. Okay, but that's not very successful. For example, in school I learned French for 8, and I know only a couple of words. Okay, Derek says, for your information, I'm watching you from Roku TV. Okay, what is Roku TV? And had to log in from my phone to comment. I may or may not go grab the MacBook, but it's cool to watch television. Yeah, you sit in your couch. You know, you know what? You should get this. Okay, today. Oh, Siemens is from New York, right? And Meowcat is still in Romania. Meowcat is in Romania. Now, Meowcat is originally from Canada, right? I don't think you mind. Nobody know who you are. You are Meowcat. Meowcat is originally from Canada, and you're still in Romania. Wow. Uh, so what we gonna do? That's right. Yeah, that's right. So Css keyboard. Um, there is this thing. Okay. Let's see. Let's go to Css keyboard, and let's go to PC keyboards, and let's look at this one. Okay. Where is it? Oh, okay. So let's go to miscellaneous, and and Derek. So Derek, you need to buy this on the couch. You need to buy this on the couch keyboard and mouse. Now this is of course of gamers' interest, game lovers thing. Well, if I guess if you sit in the couch often, then I guess, and you need to play first-person shooters, I don't think you'll do well. You'll be dead doing that. But for adventure games, yeah. But on the other hand, if you're doing adventure games, then you don't need a mouse. You can use the controller. But anyway, so people sell these things. Roku TV. So what is Roku TV? So should we start to talk about CSS? So Sima says I've done CSS before. It's okay for colors and layout. The rest of CSS I don't think I ever get used. Okay, let me mention something about CSS. Okay, in CSS, okay, what's Roku TV? I guess it's just a TV then. Now, is Roku a brand name or what? Let's see, Roku streaming players and smart TV. Oh, I guess it's just a brand name, right? Yeah, it's just like a lot of TVs you buy today. they are called smart TVs, meaning that they connect to the internet. So they are, you can you excuse me, you can watch Netflix and Amazon Video stuff from your TV. Now, me as a loner, as a single old man, I don't have a TV. Well, actually, I don't have a TV since year 2000. Uh, so I have not watched TV for 20 years. Eliminate those thought control, totally cut off, like cut off the cable. They don't influence me. Now, this is part of the reason I'm a little bit strange. Because for average people, let's say America, because I'm American, I live in America. So average people, for example, in America, they watch TV every day. Most people. Well, TV kind of gradually declined, but instead of you have phones, every teenager, every boy, girls is watching the phone all the time. That's a TV replacement. And today, the internet has kind of become TV, like YouTube. They are becoming just like TV before. So anyway, I haven't watched TV since year 2000, and typically everyone American, for example, well, I guess still most people watch TV, or you watch your phone all the time. And if you don't watch TV, if you are someone who don't do that, then your opinions on everything is gonna be slightly different from the mainstream, because that's what TV does. I mean that, yeah, that's, well, because everyone is, they, what they see every day, what they hear, does not matter what they actually think, but the fact that they are seeing all these kind of things, every day, it it gets into your brain. That is why when you grew up in different places, you have different view of the world. If you grew up in Russia, in China, in Middle East, in America, in Japan, you have your perception of things are different. So if you don't watch TV, well, actually, don't watch TV is a good thing. Okay, but it's for most people it's hard to do because everyone else is watching it. Your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad is watching it every day. TV is at your home. You grew up, you wake up, then TV is on. Even you don't try to watch it, but it's on, it's playing, and and then your friends, your roommates, they all want TV. They watch it, and sometimes they talk about it. Even you don't want to, but you cannot help. I mean, when suppose your friend, say, "Oh, look at this," you have to look, because otherwise you are rude. So that's hard to cut off. Yeah, so that's about TV. So anyway, so we digressed, and let's go back to the comments and see what we have. And we have been talking for 30 minutes already. Well, okay, so this is our talk show. Today's talk and talk. So beautiful music, Meowcat. So generates all appropriate. So Meowcat. Uh, so Russia. So you learned English by yourself, or I guess by yourself. Green Deck. Okay. That's because yours is handwritten, while theirs made automatically by an engine. What? Roku TV, I guess. Sima says, I've done CSS before. It's okay. 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 Yeah. So let me talk. Let me tell you this about CSS. Now you see, CSS, it's designed for basically for appearances, for changing. For example, all these CSS effects. Now, when you use CSS, you can almost categorize CSS into two parts. One is all these very easy to understand visual effects, such as color, opacity, like transparent color. So you can specify opacity. And this here's an example. We have a background image. Let's see. Let's magnify. Okay, that doesn't work well. So anyway, you see this screen. They are at different levels of opacity, meaning transparency. Okay, and the syntax is this. The syntax is this. So and in practice, in real life, I mean the actual code looks like this. For example, this one says any paragraph tag, HTML paragraph p tag with the class X, then you want to color it by this color RGB, value for red, green, blue. Then the last argument is opacity. So one is opaque. If you say one, it's totally not transparent. So if you say zero, it becomes completely transparent. So anyway, this is one of the CSS thing, opacity. So I was saying CSS, you can divide them into two categories. One category is what you would call visual effects, such as color, opacity, linear gradient, radial gradient, box shadow. Here is an example of box shadow. You can generate it randomly. You can use inset, random color. You can increase the offset. Let's say, you can do things like that and change the direction. Oh, let's see. Offset. Let's say that. Okay. Then you can change the direction. So all these are very easy to understand. They are just visual effects, including animation. Well, the syntax for animation is a bit more complex. But anyway, what I'm talking about is they are all visual. Box shadow, you know, box shadow. So you see, this is actually not image. This is text. For example, you can copy it, go to Emacs, new buffer, paste, okay, and enlarge. These are actually Unicode characters. For example, this character, let's call describe char, okay. Then this character, the name is mathematical francator, small a, okay, and the code point is over here. It's 120094. Okay, so anyway, that's Unicode character. But anyway, this is not image, it's just text. For example, let's see if we can change do we have a text box? I should have a text box. Anyway, so you see, you can change the blur. Let's see, make it big. Sharp and blur. Okay, so all these are visual effects. Now, that's one part of CSS. Now, there's another part of CSS. Wait, hold on a second. Also, the other part about visual effect is like underline, overline, underline, overline, strike through. These are also visual effect. Very easy. I mean, the concept is very easy to get. And you also have bold. For example, bold text. Then you have letter spacing. For example, you can do that. And so all these are visual effects. The concept is very simple. Now that's one category of CSS. Now the other category is layout. So what do you mean? For example, if you look at this page, you see I have a panel on the left. I have kind of a main column in the center. Then I have the right column that's for ads, and also I have a top row that's ads. Okay, so that's one of the layout, and also I have these boxes, um, and then I have boxes here. So that's about layout. Now, if we go back to YouTube, you can see YouTube. This page has its own layout. For example, it has this box at top, then this box, then this. You know, so layout is actually the most critical and practical for web pages. Not so much for visual effect. All this color. You rarely see people do all these colors. Yeah, color is still important for basic use, but you rarely see so all these they look fancy and they stand out. They are dramatic, but they are not actually in real life. They are not that useful compared to the layout. Now, this section are tutorials about how to use CSS for layout, and they are actually the most important. Should we go to another website to check the layout? For example, this DuckDuckGo search, it also have a layout. For example, the top is a wide row, then you have a column that's not so wide. And also remember, this layout changes. For example, on this page, for example, let me show you this. Wait, let me show you my CSS page first. So my CSS page, if you change the window size, now watch the change of the layout as I adjust the window size. Okay, here we go. You see, smaller, smaller. You see, they auto adjust. Then, whoops, you see, the right column is gone. Let's go back. Right column. Now the right column is gone. Okay, now let's keep shrinking, keep shrinking, keep shrinking. Whoop! The left column is gone. You see, this is what they call responsive design. Of course, you use CSS to do this, and this is all about layout. So why do you need that? For example, when you are on a phone, let me show you. Okay, when you are watching this page on a phone, then you want a different layout. That is mostly why. On the other hand, some people, gamers, they have wall-sized TV screen, or like if you are watching on TV, then you may want a different layout. So that's all about layout. Let me show you the phone. Hold on a second. Let me show you what is this? Okay, hold on a second. So let's press that. Yeah, so now we are looking at this page on a phone. Okay, this is actually bad because you see this empty column on the right. That's not what you want. You want so this is actually bad. I probably should go fix it. Let's try iPhone 6, iPhone 7. Okay, now it's good. Okay, so for iPhone, it's very tedious. You see, you can see an example now. For iPhone 6, 7, 8 works. Oh, now it works. Wait, hold on a second. Let's go back. But anyway, you get the idea. So you want to change the layout because of different screen sizes. So back to what I was saying. So CSS, you can kind of categorize CSS into two parts. One is all visual, like these. They look great. They look fancy, and they are pretty easy to understand. You can see what they are about. On the other hand, the layout, that's actually more important, and also they are extremely difficult to understand. Why? That's just because the design of CSS. They are rather fairly involved to actually understand them well. Have you guys seen a comic on the web? Kind of viral comics. Let me show you. Okay. Let's show you. Okay. Let's see, where are they? Oh, oh, that's Google showing my other web pages. Okay. So what is this ad? Okay, let me show you this comic. Okay, but before we do that, let me read the comments. Now, remind me to show that comic and keep the comments going. Okay, so good morning, web deck, web dog, web dog. Uh, so gradient, green deck, beautiful music. That's because Meowcat have the entire painting. Meowcat says, I've seen entire paintings emulated with gradients. Yes, I have seen that too. There are some people who went crazy with CSS. For example, have you seen Mona Lisa, right? The classic painting Mona Lisa. Now, typically you do that well with a paint or image, right? It's an image. But people have tried to use CSS to emulate that. So it's extremely complicated. It's like, programming language C obfuscation competition. You create this in unreadable code and minimal, like golf, minimal, just few lines, and it does something incredible, and it's impossible to read, obfuscation. So people have created Mona Lisa painting or some other paintings with CSS itself, nothing else. So that's kind of a major hack, incredible. I don't like those things at all. So actually, let me just go to the page that shows the. Okay, let's go to Xcode homepage, and let's go to programming blog. Okay, then let's go to, on the left side, there is a design, web design over here. Okay, now you guys seen this this comics, this being viral for a few times. I think this picture is at least 10 years old. Now it's a joke. Do you get it? You see, because it says CSS is awesome, but the awesome went outside of the box. Why? Because this is a common happening when you try to do CSS. When you try to create your own blog or website, this happens a lot because that's why I said CSS, the layout part, is rather uh, hard to understand. It's rather pretty hard to understand. You have to study it, really focused and study it for sometimes days, depending on which part. There are so many CSS, what do you call it, tags, or what they call it, properties. So anyway, that's why you have this gun viral. It's all over the place because people can feel it. This happens often. You say, okay, pixel, the width is 300 pixels, but then the text went outside. Why does that happen? Then you have to do some other techniques. You have to go to Stack Overflow. How do you fix that? In this case, it's called shrink box. You want a shrink box. Typically you can fix this by using a table, like display table. Okay, so that's all about. For example, I explained the display property here. Typically, when you say display table, then I'll fix that problem. But however, display table has other problems. then other problems crops up. So that's about CSS. This happens often. So CSS, uh, when it comes to layout, it's fairly complicated. Uh, Fairly complicated. So anyway, I have a tutorial, so you can read them. We could go over it. Let's see what. Let's see the comments. Okay, so I never used Vista. Okay, Meowcat says it's increasingly common to generate your CSS, not to write it manually. Yeah, people do that. There are so many CSS libraries. Now there's one that's the most popular. Does anyone remember the name? Type it. WebDog. You probably know. What's the most popular CSS framework? I forgot the name. I don't use them because I know CSS inside out. I watched CSS grew up from nothingness. CSS began the idea and specification began around 1998, something like that. But it was never used in. It didn't become popular until, let's say, 5 years, 3 years later. Bootstrap, yes. Thank you, Channing Stephen. Channing Stephen, good morning. WebDog says Post CSS. Oh, I haven't heard that one. But anyway, Bootstrap is the most popular CSS framework. I meant to look into it, but I never did. I watched CSS grew up, and the first 5 years of CSS, I didn't pay attention because I think that's crap. That's for designers. That's not for real programmers. I am a real programmer. I don't do CSS. Okay, but uh, I think until 2005. Let's see which one. Let's look at one of my earliest article on CSS. Then I'll know what's the date I started to. Um, anyway, it's around 2005 or 2006. I started to learn CSS because by that time it's inevitable. I mean, if you want to create a website page, you have to know CSS. And today you have to know well. You cannot do JavaScript or anything. You cannot create a web page without knowing CSS. And in fact, you have to know CSS well. Like you have to be a master of it to create, for example, this website. Even I have all this to create, for example, just this page. Very simple. You have to know CSS. You have to know how to create that, and you in fact you have to learn. You have to read a page that tells you how to create 3 column layout or other. And also CSS over the past 10 years they have grown and grown and grown. Now it's like JavaScript now. Like every year they have new things. Every year they have new things. Like you cannot keep up. Just like JavaScript, you cannot keep up anymore because they come out with new things every year. And then you have to check which browser implements that. So it's like the thinking is that it's going to grow forever. It's going to be more and more stuff CSS. So today you cannot write a web page without knowing CSS at all. So CSS, if you do web coding front end, you have to know CSS well. And for most people today, well, they just use Bootstrap, right? The Bootstrap is a CSS framework. Just like in JavaScript, you have React.js, you have Angular, you have a bunch of others. And many of today's front-end programmers, they don't really understand JavaScript and DOM, but rather they just know React.js. They rely on the frameworks. So in the same way, you don't really have to know master CSS. You could just rely on Bootstrap, and there are quite a few. They like all these frameworks. They are cutthroat. They are competing with each other. Each one want to say, "Oh, use me, use me, use me. I'm the most popular." Things like that. Oh, and the other one, a newcomer says, "No, use me. Don't use that because I'm new and I'm the most modern. I'm the most minimal." So they are competing all the time. CSS frameworks, JavaScript frameworks, they tend also to come and go. Like this, every 3 years, something will be very most popular. After 3 or 5 years, they becomes less popular. Some other becomes more popular. So for me, partly because I'm getting old, Uh, so I don't use those. I don't use any of these frameworks. I kind of despise them. Okay, the bootstrap and whatnot crap. I code HTML manually by hand, and I code my CSS manually by hand. So this is, for example, this is my website. On top here is the CSS, and you open it, you see the CSS code. I know every character what they mean. I know them well, and yeah, so that's me. But if you are a younger generation, you probably using the frameworks is inevitable if you work in a company, okay? Because it's kind of and it's almost actually necessary as well. I mean, for me, I'm just a single person. I'm doing my own website, so I don't have to work with people, right? But in a company, you have a team of 10, you have a team of 1,000, you have several departments. It's kind of necessary to use a framework. So you have JavaScript framework, Bootstrap, it's kind of necessary. On the other hand, if but still, you should, if you really want to know what you are doing, if you aspire to be a great programmer, if you envision one day you are going to create your own framework, then you absolutely need to know CSS well, inside out. Just like you can begin starting by by reading my tutorial, and similarly for JavaScript, my JavaScript in depth and my DOM tutorial. These are all necessary, or do not require any framework. All the application I wrote do not use any framework. It's just good old JavaScript done in a functional programming style. Elegant code, minimal, and faster than all the other websites, faster than, whenever, the moment you use a framework, CSS or JavaScript, the moment you use it, your code is going to be 5 times slower. Doesn't matter what you do, because that's framework. That's the job of framework, because they generalize, they make things easy, but then they have to compute, all the different cases, that you have trade-off. So if you know the stuff, if you know any technology well, you tend to not want to use any frameworks, because you know the stuff. You can code it yourself. And you have more flexibility, you have more power, you have more control, you have more elegant code, and so on. Okay, so that's kind of meta comment about CSS. So what were we talking about? So we talked about that. We talked about that. We talked about let's go back to CSS and see what else. And Bach and YouTube. Okay, let's get back to reading comments. Okay, so more comments and design. So Meowcats. So Meowcat says handlebars, EJS. Yes, yes. Handlebars is what? Handlebars is a CSS library, right? Framework, or was it JavaScript? I forgot. Writing CSS is slow and dangerous. Not really. not if you know what you're doing. Let your templating engine write it and fix the templating engine. And then when there's a problem, uh, you know, fix it. Nah, well, you know, that's no, that's not what I would do. Yeah, you could use those frameworks. They allow you to modify it, modify the templates and so on. But it's more work, and it's less flexible. Anyway, yeah. So well, that's using framework, right? If you want to use framework, and in fact it's inevitable in a company, use them. But on the other hand, I don't use them. I'm saying that you do also. It's important that you also master CSS, and the ability to create CSS is a great asset. It's a great power. That because those who wrote, because if you don't know CSS, you cannot write those frameworks. What do you think they do? They the Java, when they write a framework, they don't use another framework because it's like recursion, infinite recursion to Abby's. They have to know the stuff, the real vanilla CSS. You have to be a master of CSS. Then you create Bootstrap. You have to be a master of JavaScript and DOM. Then you could create a React.js or Angular, things like that. So that's my preference, to know the stuff, the raw stuff well. And design is the most used now. Oh, and design, and because it's a good React components. Okay. Now it seems you wrote your own CSS because you wanted to practice CSS and as an exercise. No, that's not true. If you were writing for a client, you would have generated it. No, that's not true. Yeah. Okay, so let me check the previous comments. I missed. So it's importing in Russia. So I've done CSS before. It's okay for colors and layout. So Seamus, any particular questions you have about CSS, or comments or interesting things like that we can talk about? So in your case, I guess you just need more practice. You just need more practice. CSS is kind of boring, actually. I mean, like, yeah. I mean, there's not much to it. I mean, for example, for layout, for example, this thing, position, the position property, static, relative, fixed, absolute. This is fairly complex to understand. So I could do a tutorial on this. I could. So you understand exactly how they work. But today is kind of too late because we've already talking for one hour. It would be nice if we begin maybe next time. If you are interested, say this, then we talk about that. But in general, CSS is kind of boring. Like you just like border, for example. This is most simple example. You have all these, you can have all these borders. So here's a code. That's all you say. Border solid 2 pixels red. Okay, that's the most simple border. Um, that is almost, that's all. There's not much to expand. So CSS, yeah. So CSS, to master CSS actually require you doing it every day. For example, you try to design different layout for a website. Uh, you know, you like, because once you do, then you will run into this. Then you then you'll get this. Then you'll say, "Oh my God, how?" This is very interesting because this happens all the time. Like every time, let me tell you my experience, okay? Every time I try to modify some CSS on my website, this happens every half a year, because something is not right. I need to, for example, this, I need to move to the left or something. I do this every half a year. Every time I think, oh, this is gonna just be 10 minutes. It turns out several hours, really, because I thought, I'm just gonna, change this, how it looks. It's gonna be 10 minutes. I just adjust some size. Then this happened, you know. Then you try to find out why does that happen. Then you try to, you just do experiment, like you started to, oh, margin is wrong. You change the margin. Oh, the, width is wrong. You change the width. It doesn't work. Like you do this, then after 3 hours, after 1 hour, still doesn't work. then you then you realize, oh, let's go to Stack Overflow. Then you go to Stack Overflow, you read it, then you try it, for hours. This happens every time. Every time I try to do CSS. That's how convoluted CSS is when you get into the details. Like I mentioned before, the visual parts, like all these color border, that's easy. Okay, that's easy. But the layout part kills you. The layout part, this happens, it kills you. And this is why does this happen? This is because CSS, the way it's designed, the philosophy is really just it's not so good. Okay, plus it's over, like now we have like 20 years of CSS, almost 25 years of CSS. They are not, in many ways, just like a programming language. They have warts. They have bad design. Like like 20 years ago, in year 2000, people cannot possibly imagine what we are doing with internet. They could not possibly imagine. They did not see the phone coming. I mean, well, in some sense they did, but they don't. They didn't see what we are doing today. So 20 years ago, back in year 2000, they are thinking, oh, CSS is just going to be for header, chapter header, then section header, how like very primitive. It's entirely different from, they have never seen today's concept of single page application. That's the thing. They didn't envision it. Back then, 20 years ago, they are thinking, the way they are envisioning CSS is that it's for a book, chapters, sections, paragraph, how you want to move the paragraph, the width and so on. That's what they are thinking. They did not imagine, for example, let's go to YouTube. Let's go to typical YouTube. They did not imagine this thing coming up. This um, well, my YouTube is, and then you see you have this menu, this interactive menu. Then you have they did not imagine this. Or if you go to Amazon, that's out of their imagination. So CSS was not designed like that for this before. It was, the goal is entirely different. But that's life. That's life. So and then around 2010 we have some kind of other ways. Then today we have today's situation, where AI is doing things. We have Google become evil, and we have phone, we have all the other things. So anyway, so all these, remember, all these are done with CSS. This interactive menu, for example, it's CSS. Uh, I think it's CSS by itself. Now, carefully look at how the menu pops up. Now I move the mouse there. There's an animation. Watch. You see, there is actually an animation. So the whole thing is CSS. I'm pretty sure there is no JavaScript involved. How do you do that? Back to the CSS fundamentals here. Animation. So I show you the fundamentals, how you do the animation. So actually that is not about animation. That interactive menu, that is about using transition. You see this transition? Okay. So you see, that's how it's done. So you learn about this transition from this page. Then you learn about and also look at this button, these three bars that becomes popular about 10 years ago, using three bars to stand for menu. That is actually also pure CSS. You use CSS to create those shapes, three bars. And it's rather very complex. So for example, if you go to back to my page, I have a page that explains that. I think I removed the link. It's kind of a hack. Okay, it's CSS. People do all kind of things with CSS. But anyway, I used to have a link, but I removed the link. That is, you can use CSS to create all kind of shapes. For example, this thing, this thing, this thing, or the three bars or the YouTube logo, you could use CSS to create that. So it becomes rather very fairly complex. And in industry, people abuse it all the time because using an image is usually more expensive because you have to, yeah, usually. So people started to use CSS to generate, to create these shapes. And there are websites that dedicated to that. For example, just search for CSS widgets or CSS shapes. You'll see that. You'll find people have created libraries, and in fact, yeah, a lot. It gets very complex if you go into details. CSS. Anyway, so I was saying, all these interactive things, all these are CSS, including, I think, okay, including all these icons, they are all CSS. So to do this is very involved. Okay, it's very complex. On CSS seems simple, but to do those things actually is a hack. It is a hack. What you would call it a hack, technically, and fairly complex. So back to the comments. Um, and also today there are tremendous websites that's about CSS how to, like very specialized, like how to create icons. It's very complex. And also, of course, Hacker News. uh, all those fonts are icons, sometimes SVG. Okay, yeah, you are right. Like it also, like I mentioned, it depends on year. Like, for example, this today, for the past 3 years, everything is done by CSS. Then the next 5 years they changed because then people find, oh, that way is better, or CSS now is, some feature in CSS is now supported in browsers. So these kind of things change all the time. They've been changing in the past 10, 15 years. So Sima says CSS only graphics. The three bars were removed now. It's just SVG images. Okay, yeah, yeah, I know. Because I've studied this in detail. Like every few years, I examine how other pages are doing things. Every about this happens every 3 or 4 years. For example, you can see that in this page. Now this page is a collection of articles on web design. So I dive into, first of all, I dive into what is the latest style, like how people do layout these days. This changes over the past 20 years. In year 2000, that's one style. Year 2005, then tabs becomes popular. Remember tabs, Amazon tabs, eBay tabs, Apple tabs. Let's go to apple.com. Tabs become popular. That's also CSS. Okay, now this style, now the style is like that. You don't actually have like tabs, but you have this kind of thing. Okay, you go to eBay, it's a bit different. You go to Amazon, it's a bit different. Okay, but basically every 5 years they change. The industry wide, they kind of follow certain designs. They change. Let's go back to my web design page. So on one hand, I look at I look at the appearance, what they do, what's the current fashion, and then also, for example, uh, what's the expected window size? It changes over the past 20 years. Like today, for example, what do you mean? For example, let's look at Apple website. Now let's try to shrink the window. Okay, you shrink, 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 shrink. Oh, okay. So Apple. No, no, wait. It changed. Okay. So Apple, you see, Apple's philosophy, Apple design, Apple's thinking is that when you have your window is at this many pixels, they decided to change the layout. Okay. Now you okay, everyone is using 3 bars. Apple is using 2 bars. Apple Apple is typically the trend setter. Okay, now Apple is like 2 bars for the menu. You go to Amazon, it's different. Okay, so Amazon, Amazon. Some of them use flow design, like fluid, and while others they have more fixed layout. Let's try Amazon. Okay, so here's Amazon. Okay, so tab apparently is out of fashion. You see, you no longer see kind of like the browser tabs, so you don't see that. But anyway, let's shrink Amazon page. Let's see what happens. Shrink. Yeah, you see the text, you see the chart, the cart. Okay, now when you shrink, it becomes hidden. You see. Now this is a different design philosophy from Apple. This is kind of more called fixed layout. Okay, so it expect when Amazon detect that you are on a desktop and also using JavaScript, he knows what's your screen size. Okay, so Amazon's philosophy is that okay, now he knows you are from a desktop, he knows your window size, he knows your screen size, and he decided there should be a minimal window size. When you go below that, things just cut off. So he expect that everyone on desktop would be. So this is their minimum width, so to speak. But however, if you shrink a lot more, let's see what happens. Okay, yeah, they are based on a absolute design. What's the proper term is absolute layout. They don't, which is very different from Apple. They expect you to always have this minimal size. So that's about several different design philosophies. All these are done with CSS. Okay, for example, all these are CSS. Apple, Amazon, and you can look at their CSS file. If you look at their CSS file, basically it's incomprehensible. Should we show it or not? Actually, we've been talking for how long? We've been talking for 1 hour. So maybe let's talk for 10 more minutes. Okay, show it. Okay, so we've been talking for 10 minutes, and I haven't answered some of the questions yet. I think and there are some questions. Okay, yeah. So okay, let's show that. But let me hold on a second. I want to explain my page. So this page is about. So I survey web design. Not just that. Okay, so first of all, I look at the design. Also, I look at what font they use. For example, this page is my survey of what is the expected minimal window size. Now, this one is written in 2012. Okay, 2012. Facebook expects you to have 1014 pixels. Apple 1014. Same for Google. Microsoft.com expect you have 1000 pixels. Yahoo also 1014. Amazon 1033. Okay, and Twitter 900 minimum. Gmail 994 minimum. Okay, so this is my survey. I go check their website and so on. And this one is back in 2012. So let's look at the fixed. There's another design issue we talked about. Let's say tab. Okay, survey of tab style 2006. Now this article you can see all the different websites tab. Tab came around I think 2002 tabs, design of tabs, because back then it's new. Like as I said, CSS evolves over the past 20 years. So every few years you have a new feature, or you don't have a new feature, but people discovered, oh, you can do tabs. People hack CSS and they discovered, those are called CSS gurus or web design. There are many websites like that. People discovered, oh, you can, do this or that, or sprites or tabs. So tab came about around 2002, I think, or 2003 maybe. Then in 2006 I surveyed, that's a date. Yeah, 2006. That's when I started to study CSS seriously, like study every part of it. So in 2006 you have these tabs. So you have Amazon looks like that, eBay looks like that, Yahoo looks like that. Now Yahoo is dead now. Companies come and go, and Apple looks like that. You have tabs. And I have, of course, I teach you how to create tabs using CSS. This is my page. It's on my index, CSS index page. So anyway, let's go back to the CS. Then I also looked at yeah, fixed layout. Yeah, remember we were talking about absolute layout. Yeah, the word is actually fixed layout. Fixed layout versus float layout. So I was talking about that. This is written back in 2010. But anyway, some of the many interesting issues. For example, font serif or sans serif. So I did this one, a survey in 2016. I looked at the top, the most popular websites. I look at whether they are using serif font or sans serif. So I have written a report. So serif body text include websites that use serif for body, for text body includes Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times, Time Mag, Scientific American. Typically journals. And while most other websites use sans serif for body. Okay, now title font, title font like that, that's a different story. When you do typography, typically the title and body text are separate. You consider with respect to font. So title font, depending on the website, so there are differences. Also, I study how they use the font, like what technology, like do they use Google font or do they use what's called CSS font. I look into, you watch their source code, you study them. So apparently, back in 2016, for example, New York Times, they are famous for this kind of font, Frankter. So back in 2016, you can see. So my question is do they design their own, or do they use Google font, or do they use image for font, or do they use SVG? Like how do they do it? So Wall Street Journal use SVG, as well as New York Times, Washington Post, Los Angeles Times, US Today. Okay, US Today is not using SVG. And Wikipedia is using PNG, okay, the image. So anyway, so that's how, I looked into what they how they implement, the technology, how they implement their things. So that's all these web design articles are about. There are so many different issues. One of the thing I hate the most is gray on white. Gray on white. This became popular like 15 years ago, or 10 years ago. Gray on white. It becomes a fashion. It becomes part of the bootstrap and all the framework fucks. That's what happened. That's what happens. Gray on white. Why do people do that? Because they look cool. All these designer gurus and programmer idiots. They think, oh, this looks cool. This looks beautiful. Gray on white. It became popular like 10 years ago. And they are these gurus, including these solarized, okay, very popular. These gurus, they are, doing talks at Google conference or whatever. They tell you, oh, you need to do gray on white because look at nature. Do you actually ever see, black on white, very sharp black and white? No, never. If you look at nature, it's all uh, in between colors. you know, they are gonna tell you stuff. They tell you they want to tell you what to do, but they are like most of their thing. I don't like the designers. I don't like the web designers or guru. Their thing is usually crap. They are typically designer, design gurus. Okay, they have a name like expert, um, you know, but they create crap. Don't do gray on white. Okay, you look at this unreadable thing. It depends on your what device you are using, the contrast, your device, how old is your monitor, things like that. It depends on lots of things. If you do it reasonably, yeah, it works. Okay, it's good, gray on white. But what ends up is that on the whole, all the words website, typically what ends up is that all this happens unreadable. Like you cannot read. It's too uh, bland. It's too bland. That's what actually happens in real world. All these frameworks. Yeah, this is part of the reason we have these all over the place, like on all blogs, is because these fucking frameworks. These frameworks, they centralize everything. Bootstrap, React JS, all these templates. Yeah, also all this, like every website looks the same now. If you don't know, like back around 2006, okay, or 2005, I was looking for a job. I was looking to join a startup company. Okay, so you have lots, startup companies. Usually they have a website, right? And often they are written in Ruby on Rails. Often, so you go to their website. Like every one of them looks the same. They look exactly the same, exactly the same layout. Actually, I should go find that one of those sites, and so I can show you. They look exactly the same. Oh, first of all, they are all pretty. Okay, not like my website. Which you don't see website like mine. Like, oh, this is not. You know, Rather what you see is pretty, like Apple. Pretty. But anyway, you go to all these startup websites. They are all trying to change the world. All over here where I live. Silicon Valley. You go to their website, everyone looks exactly the same. Well, first of all, they are all pretty. So then they have. Then you have when you go to a website, you have animation, some kind of animation. Then you scroll down, like Apple, kind of like Apple. Okay, and then you scroll down. Yeah, you see these. You see other. I don't want to click. Okay, hold on a second. Uh, and it's slow. Okay, then you go down. Then you see other animations. Okay, then they have like 3 or 4 dots that lets you swipe. Switch to the next pen. Have you guys seen that? You must have, right? uh, you know, everyone looks the same. Why do they look the same? Because they are all using the same framework, same templates. Framework, you have several templates for you to choose, and they are just brainless. They have people. They don't know CSS well. They don't know CSS. They know the frameworks. They know how to use frameworks, but that's it. They don't know how to use CSS. They don't know JavaScript, but they know React JS. They know jQuery. Okay, that's what they do. They don't actually understand JavaScript or DOM, but they use React.js and jQuery. Okay, so every page looks the same. Every website. That's kind of funny. You don't realize until you look at all the, you know, you look at all the startup websites. Um, so that's kind of interesting, I guess. So I think maybe that's it for today's. So if you have any questions, interesting comments, post it right now. Okay, we shut down maybe in 2 minutes. Okay, okay, guys, post comments and say goodbye. Now it's a good time. Uh, Hold on. Let me. Did I miss anything I want to talk about? I think that's about it. Yeah. So check out my CSS tutorial. Okay. Now let me post it, and also my JavaScript tutorial, my DOM tutorial. They are all good. They are good stuff. I spent, well, by now I must have spent years, 10 years writing them. Uh, so let me post the link here. That's CSS. Okay. And let's see what else. And here is about web design. So let's post that link too. And let's read the comments, and that would be it for today. Grindex says, have you seen articles about RMS on bias? Yes, actually I posted that today. Um, let's let's talk about it some other day, tomorrow or something. Yeah, maybe. That's kind of controversial topic because it's about social justice stuff. Uh, oh, Channing. Hey, Channing. Haven't seen you before. Welcome to Sa Talk Show. Haha. So on the couch, yes, on the couch. Yes, I have YouTube app on Roku. I don't have cable. Okay, Meowcats. YouTube. YouTube is for homies, for normies. I prefer I prefer something with my morning breakfast. Okay, top fan here, Derek. Uh, okay, I literally watch YouTube and Netflix on my TV or streaming. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for coming by. Check out my tutorial. Share it. Okay, share the link. Tell your friends. Let me talk about simulation. Oh, well, simulation argument. That's too late for today. Sorry, web dog. Tomorrow, come by early. Come by early and say that. Then we can talk about that. Suppose, yeah. So that's about the simulation philosophy argument. Most people know about that in the Matrix movie back in 2000, or was it 1999? The first Matrix movie, or red pill versus blue pill. But that philosophy issue is pretty old. I think at least back to Descartes in 1500s, about whether you are in a dream. Like, how do you know you are actually in a dream? You are just a dream of some devil. That's so ancient. I'm not sure that's the first. But anyway, that's a classic topic of philosophy, and the subject matter is about mind versus body. Yeah, you can look up on Wikipedia, mind versus body. That's part of that subject matter, simulated reality. And today, of course, today we have AI technology. We have brain and computer interface, although we don't have it yet, but it's on the horizon where we can just plug it in like a USB. Okay, I need to I need to get a USB D. Okay, the next version. Now we have USB. You have USB different plugs. Now today, Apple introduced USB-C, which is the latest fashion. We need to have USB-C, which is faster and everything, better and faster, and you don't have to worry about which side is up. And tomorrow we are going to have USB-D, such that we can plug in. I can just plug in into my brain. I can download and stuff, and then I can close my eyes, and I'll have I'll be rich. Um, yeah, so that's part of the simulation argument. So the question is, would you want to do that? Would you? So do you want the red pill, uh, where you get harsh reality and you have to struggle to make a living, or you rather prefer the blue pill, which is like you just plug in and you live in a fantasy. You have a great life. You have a great wife or girlfriend or husband or whatever, your partner. Okay, today is you have to say partner. You cannot say husband and wife. That's that's you're gonna be beaten. Okay, so you're gonna have a great partner. You're gonna have rich life. You're gonna enjoy steak. Oh my God, steak. Great steak, beef, and that's blue pill. but but somehow you got a sense that that's not real. So which one do you prefer? Uh, you can actually do that. You just go to a hospital, you ask a doctor, you ask a doctor to cut off your frontal lobe or something. Then you'll be happy. You'll be smiling all the time. It's like this. Okay, I got this from a friend. Uh, Wait, let me show my. Okay, so it's like this. Let me perfect. I don't know if you can see the smoke. This is THB from a friend, and this is the main ingredients of cannabis. And but it's not really for me. I don't. It doesn't. It's not really good for me because I don't feel. It makes you dumb. That's what it does. It makes you dumb and relax, and you just dumb. You can no longer think anymore. Like I cannot do math. I cannot think about math anymore. I cannot think about philosophy anymore. Like blue pill or red pill. What are the consequences? What's the argument? You cannot. It stops you from thinking, and if you take too much of it, then you're just gonna smile all the time. You're just gonna smile, and that makes me nervous. That makes me very uncomfortable. Really, actually, that makes me. Okay, so maybe we already actually. So we by chance we actually talked about that topic about um, about simulation. Maybe you have some another thing. I mean, maybe your question is more specific, or actually, I should ask you, what do you think about it? Anyway, that's it for today. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Now this is great. This is a weekend. Uh, Bye guys. Peace out.